Thank you for joining us. Today's workshop is Achieving Excellence, Time Management and Effective Planning. My name is Christine Torres. I am the Director for Success Initiatives on the Houston campus. Joining us today, I do have two of my counterparts that are helping. We have Ms. Destiny Tolbert, who is our Director on our Dallas campus, and we have Dr. Elia Tamplin, who is our Director on our Denton campus. So let's get started. Somebody says they can't hear, so let me, Destiny or Elia, Dr. Tamplin, can you turn on your?
I can hear you, Christine.
You can hear me. Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so I did put up my volume, so please check on your side to see if you can check the volume on your side. So we're going to be activating a Q&A section. So within your control panel for your Zoom, you're going to see a Q&A. You can add questions in there, and we do have Dr. Tamplin who's going to be responding to those questions as we go through. You also have the chat feature in your Zoom toolbar to participate in some chats. I'll ask questions, I'll ask for some engagement, some interaction so that we can have a nice flow throughout this presentation. If at any time you want to take your mic off and ask a question, you're more than welcome to do that as well. So let's get started. Our agenda today, we are going to be covering prioritization skills, goal setting techniques, which is a SMART goal we're going to focus on, and we're going to cover some study skills and some other techniques. We are going to start off by going through a quick poll. This is a poll that is going to be popping up on your screen, so give me a second. All right, it's just a couple of questions. You should see the questions pop up on your screen. They have to do with time management and effective planning. So we're going to take just a few seconds to go. Don't think too much about it. Just answer what comes to the top of your mind. We'll show the results here in a few seconds, and it is all confidential. Your name doesn't come up that you answered one way versus another. So please feel comfortable answering the questions. All right, got a lot of polls coming through. I got a lot of questions being answered. I love the engagement. Thank you. All right. 60% complete right now. So let's keep answering these questions. Those of you who are just now joining us, we are going through a quick poll. If your poll doesn't pop up because of the time you joined in, it's going to be okay. It's just for me to get kind of a general idea of where everybody is right now. We're about 73% complete. So if I can ask you to just wrap up the questions, and then we can move forward. All right, we're thinking really strong about these questions, huh? All right, we're getting closer. We're about 80% right now. Thank you for joining us. If you're just now joining us, we are wrapping up a short poll. You can, if you do still have access to it, you can see it, but I'll be ending the poll in about 30 seconds now. Session is being recorded. All information will be sent out within a few days to all students. All righty, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up our poll. It's okay if you did not finish. All right, we're going to be sharing these results. We can talk about these real quick.
So sorry to make yourself look good.
Hey, Christine, sorry.
Yes.
There's another student that mentioned that they can't hear. can we see if anyone else is having those issues? Like students?
Sure, Dr. Template, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
So, if you
Okay,
can-
so
Yeah,
go
we've
ahead,
got-
Christine.
We've got a couple of people that they confirmed. Thank you very much, Destiny, for checking in. You might want to try putting in some headphones to see if you can hear a little bit better. The session is recorded. I am speaking in a very loud tone at the moment. My volume is all the way up, and the session will be recorded. So anything you miss, you can come back and watch. Or if you have questions along the way, just add your questions to the chat and we will go through with answering you. Thank you for confirming that you can hear. Yes, and there's some suggestions. Just try logging out and logging back in. All right, so let's get through our polling questions. Our first question was, how often do you feel overwhelmed by your to-do list? Majority of our people who responded, it was kind of a tie between daily and weekly, and very small for rarely. Our next question, what's your biggest time management challenge? Our biggest time management challenge right now within this group seems to be overcommitment, then followed by lack of planning, some distractions, and procrastination. How do you currently track your deadlines and assignments? Currently, looks like most of the people in attendance today plan it using a planner or some type of notebook, followed by a to-do list, a digital calendar, and then a couple of people, there were no responses for I don't track. Our next question, which area of your academic life needs the most improvement in terms of time management? Overwhelming response for balancing school, work, and personal life, and we will get into a technique to help with that, followed by studying and reading, starting and completing assignments, and then attending classes. Our next question, how do you prioritize tasks when everything seems important? By deadlines? Oh, this probably means that we're putting out a lot of fires. That's probably what that means. Followed by how important it is. And then we have some people who were honest and said that they just struggle with prioritization. And it is normal to struggle with prioritization, especially when you're trying to balance work, family, school, and all trying to meet this within daily, weekly timeframes. Our last question, have you attended our have you attended at least have you attended one of our academic success workshops before? We're looking at about 86% that, no, this is your first time, so welcome. Thank you for joining us. And then we have a couple of returning students. Thank you for coming and attending our sessions, and I hope that you continue to attend our sessions. Okay, so we all have a lot of things to do. That is evident, right? So let's talk about what to do now and how to balance that. So we all have different responsibilities, we have different interests, and we have different needs that can pull us into different directions. And sometimes it can be challenging for you to focus on school. It is completely normal for you to feel like this is a struggle. The key here is to remember that you have the power to control and manage your time. So today what we're going to do is we're going to learn a couple of tools to help you with prioritizing so that you can balance your commitments and stay focused on your academic journey. So what I want you to do right now is to think about, or if you have a blank sheet of paper, scratch sheet of paper, I want you to write down an academic goal that you have for this semester. So take a few seconds, think about what that is, and jot it down. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be a complete sentence. Just what is your goal for this semester? When you know what that is, or when you kind of can feel like, I think this is what I want to on for today's presentation, do me a favor and drop that in the chat. I want to hear what some of these goals are that our audience today is looking towards mastering. Complete my work and pass, great. Keep my GPA up. Finish all my courses with an A. Good, good, good. I want to stay above a 3.7. Maintaining GPA seems to be a pretty a pretty consistent theme right now. Having all A's, great. Well, let's show you how you can work on this. Feel free to continue contributing. I think that by contributing, you can show other people that are here today that they are also interested in some of the same goals that you may have. So let's talk about that. I'll read the last one. Set up a consistent study routine. We're going to cover that. So I want us to go, before we move forward, I want us to take some time to reflect on this quote. The key is not to prioritize what's on your schedule, but to schedule your priorities. As we go through this first exercise, I want you to think about those responsibilities that you have. Maybe you have to work. Maybe you have family responsibilities, personal responsibilities, health responsibilities. Maybe you're involved in extracurricular activities at school and away from school. I want you to think about how these different responsibilities and needs and interests contribute to your academic goal that you just wrote down or that you just thought about. First tool we're going to look at is the Eisenhower priority matrix. So if you've ever felt overwhelmed by your to-do list, and based on our poll, it looks like that some of us do, or if you've ever struggled to figure out what do I work on first? Sometimes that could just be a challenge because you have so many things to do. Maybe you're so overwhelmed that you just freeze and you end up not doing anything. I want you to know that you're not alone. The Eisenhower priority matrix is a prioritization tool that helps you focus on high priority tasks, manage urgent issues efficiently, and delegate or eliminate less important tasks. So I want you to keep this in mind as we move forward. What you're going to do is, now that you understand that you've got different roles and interests and different obligations, especially we're going to focus on just this semester. I want you, when you're done with this workshop, I want you to do this activity and I want you to list all your to-dos. So it's sort of like a brain dump. You know, you've got this deadline, you know, you've got to work on a project, you know, you have something personal coming up, all of these things that are floating around in our head. I want you to write them down. This is going to serve as a brain dump activity for us to get started, or for you to get started with prioritizing what needs to be done first, second, and then maybe looking at some things that are less important and that do not connect to your overall goal of increasing your GPA, making at least that 3.7, making it all A's, staying on a consistent routine. So I want you to think about those things and you can come back and do this activity. But for now, we're just going to kind of walk through what this looks like. After you've created that brain dump of all the materials that are due and all your to-dos, once you have that in one spot, you're going to take another sheet of paper and you're going to draw a table. This table does not have to be perfect because this is for you. This is nothing you have to turn in, nothing you're going to be graded on. You're going to create a table with 4 quadrants. Each quadrant will be named the way it is here on the slide. You're going to name the top row urgent and not urgent, followed by not important and important. Okay, so this is going to be an image of what you're going to start off with. As you start looking at the items that you've put on this brain dump, all your to-dos, every responsibility that feels like it's overwhelming, what you're going to do next is you're going to identify items that are urgent and important. These are tasks that need immediate attention. This might be something that is due today, something that's worth a huge chunk of your grade. Things that cannot wait are going to go in the urgent and important quadrant. Next, you're going to go through your list and you're going to identify items that are important but not urgent. These are tasks that can be significant, but can be scheduled for later. So this is not pressing in the moment, but it is something that you need to do within that week, within that month, within that semester. So these are not items that require immediate attention, but are still highly important. Then you're going to go through your list from what's remaining, and you're going to identify items that are urgent but not important. So these are going to be tasks that need to be done soon, but they do not connect back to your overall academic goal, the goal that you created. So these can be things like maybe planning a Christmas party, planning a winter break vacation, thinking about what classes you need to register for next year, things like that. They're important, but they don't need to be done in this moment. But they might contribute to that overall goal. So you have to be able to determine what is actually going to tie back to that goal that you have created for yourself. Finally, we have what's left on your list, and these are going to be items that are not urgent and not important. These are tasks that can be minimized or eliminated. So after looking at everything that you've got to do, you take a second look and you say, well, maybe I don't have to volunteer for an assignment that's not going to impact your grade. Maybe it is looking at your extracurricular activities and minimizing those so that you do have more time to focus on these other areas. Your table at this time should be complete. Now what? So this is kind of just some visual reminders of how to go through and complete the task that you've now identified as either being urgent, not important, or important. Your goal is to live in the important but not urgent, I'm sorry, I'm going to repeat myself. Urgent, but important, but not urgent, which is the yellow area. This quadrant is important because this quadrant requires discipline and planning. So if you give yourself strict deadlines and hold yourself accountable for meeting those deadlines, you don't always have to feel like you're putting out fires. If you feel like you're putting out fires, that means you are living in the important and the urgent. So for anybody who might be struggling with procrastination or waiting till the last minute to do things, or feeling like you work better under pressure, you actually thrive when you are in the important but not urgent. You have time to plan, to think through items, and to overall be more successful at retaining that information later because you've given yourself time to go over it in advance. So you want to make sure that it's important to be mindful of distractions. I can almost guarantee when you write this list of everything that you have to do, your social media, your social interactions, your binge watching, being on your phone, those are not listed as items in your to-do list, but yet they take away a lot of that precious time that can be dedicated to your academics, to your family, to your other obligations that are more important to you. So make sure that you're mindful of distractions and that you're making meaningful decisions when it comes time to planning and avoiding those distractions so that you can stay focused and complete the tasks in a timely manner. Okay. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to look at that academic goal for the semester. So the academic goal that you would like to work on this semester, we're going to refine that. We're going to make it to where it's no longer a thought, but we're going to tie stuff to it so that you are more accountable and more likely to complete that and to master it. So if your goal is at least to make a 3.7, we've got to put things in place so that you know how to make at least that 3.7 and maybe even higher. So if you want all those A's, if you want to, get a scholarship, whatever that may be, we're going to need to look at this next step. Okay, so let's talk about this next step. And it is a goal setting technique. It is called SMART goals. So the SMART goal technique stands for specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-based. This is where you will be more successful in completing your goals versus having a vague goal. I just want to increase my GPA. Well, let's look at what this looks like. So specific, this is where you clearly set your goal. Measurable is to ensure that you can measure your success. Achievable, you set goals you know you can achieve. You want to make sure they're realistic. You also want to make sure that your goal is relevant. You set goals relevant to what you are trying to achieve. And finally, time-based. This is where you set a deadline, and this holds you accountable. We're going to use this example of I want to improve my GPA. And we're going to look through how we can make this a SMART goal so that we are more prone to completing it versus it just being a thought. So we're going to put a plan of action into play. Now you can walk through this exercise on your own and develop these, or you can come back and do this later. You're probably not going to have enough time to sit here and develop it, but I would highly encourage everybody to think about this, create their goal into an action plan. And we're going to go through that now. So for specific, we want to improve my GPA by adapting one new study habit. I'm going to pick one study habit to implement for the rest of the semester, and that is going to help with my overall goal. You see, what happens is if you make one small change into your daily routine, your weekly routine, your study habits, it's going to have an overall impact. You're not going to see it the next day. You're not going to see it, that same evening. It's not going to happen overnight. It's a gradual process that happens once you start to develop and implement and stay consistent with creating a specific goal like improve my GPA by adapting one new study habit. Now, how are we going to measure? We're going to measure ourselves by making sure that our GPA is increased by 0.5 points. It's realistic. It's something that we can do. And we can get there or even higher if we adapt an additional study habit or we change some things as far as looking at that priority matrix. If we eliminate some things, then we're able to focus more on the goal of improving our GPA. Achievable. How are we going to do this? We're going to start dedicating 2 hours a day to studying. We're going to attend all of our classes, and we're also going to meet with our professors. I know a lot of times it's hard to meet or follow up with your professors, but it's important that you're able to do that. So if you actually implement this as a practice and you say you're going to do this, you can also hold yourself accountable for doing this, because remember, by doing this, this is going to help clarify assignments, understand where you're at in the class, understanding course expectations, and this is going to help with that overall goal of increasing your GPA by 0.5 points. How is it relevant? Well, once you improve your GPA, improving my GPA will help me apply for scholarships. So if your long-term goal is to be able to apply for more scholarships, but you don't have that scholarship to get in, to make those minimum requirements, these are the steps that are going to get you there. Maybe you're trying to get into a discipline that requires a certain GPA, a program, things like that. This is a track that'll help you get there by implementing a SMART goal, laying out this plan. Are time-based. By the end of the semester, you can physically give yourself a deadline by December the 16th. Whatever that looks like, you can definitely be more specific. I kept it general for the terms of just this presentation. So this is an example of what a SMART goal looks like. Do we have any questions about SMART goals or this process, or might be stuck on something that you're working on? Maybe you have a question about like, well, my goal is this, but I can't figure out like how it's relevant or time-based. Has anybody created a SMART goal before? Remember, you can use emojis, you can drop something in the chat. Anybody used a SMART goal before or something similar? Yes, great. Some of the disciplines that you're in, you'll see that SMART goals are actually part of the material that you're learning within your disciplines. I think I love it. Everything in my life is from a SMART goal. I love it. I have before in high school, but haven't done one again. And you know what? A lot of the things that we're talking about, they're things that you've done before. They're things in your past and things that make sense. But because we're so overwhelmed with living in the now, we forget about these things. So I encourage you to go back and do things that feel like they're right, like they've worked before. So somebody's tried one before, but it didn't really work out. Feel free to kind of use this example to be more specific. If there are things keeping you from completing it, reach out for help. And I'll talk about how to reach out to an academic coach so that we can help you maybe define these a little easier for you. Yes, thank you. We're going to move into study skills and techniques. Now that we've learned about how to make a SMART goal and how to make it a tie back to your original academic goal, we're going to talk about a few techniques that you can apply to help you achieve your goals. These techniques will help you to maximize your study time, stay organized, and help reduce stress. The first one we're going to talk about is time blocking. Time blocking is where you identify blocks of time within your schedule, like we're going to look at a weekly basis. And time blocking increases focus, it enhances productivity, and it can help you manage procrastination. Everybody will get a copy of the or access to this template I'm going to use, but I've also dropped it in the chat for anybody that wants to peek at it now. You can download this and use this template for your planning. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at this template of a blank schedule. The times where you feel like you've got too much going on and you don't have enough time to do things, I would recommend taking some time to see where your week is going, because this is where we need to start off. Once you get this skeleton schedule planned, then it'll be easier for you to be able to identify time blocks where you can go in and study. I've created the basis of just a basic, simple schedule, and I do understand that everybody has different needs, different responsibilities, and things of that nature. So it's going to be different for everyone, but you can customize this. If you are not able to access this file, it could be that you're not signed in with your TWU credentials, and you might have another Gmail account logged in on your computer or device. All right. First thing you do is you go in and plug in those things that are high priority. We're going to stick to our classes and a work schedule. And then if you have any online classes, create a block for that, because you want to make sure that you are designating time and not leaving it up to solely completing assignments before they're done. Next, what you're going to do is identify items that are important that we tend to forego for one reason or another. You want to make sure that you're either having a good breakfast or a good lunch, or that you're packing your lunch and breakfast on those days that you have full days and you're not at home. So we've already included a time for breakfast, a time for lunch. We've also included a bedtime. It's very important that you create a routine, whether that be the time that you wake up and also the time that you go to bed. Create a routine to where you are winding down at a certain time and you are for sure in bed at a certain time. This will help you with keeping a consistent schedule and not depending on the fact that, well, I can go to bed at 12 o'clock. I can go to bed at 1 o'clock and try to buy some time that way. If you hold yourself consistent to these time blocks, then you are successfully able to identify pockets of time in your study in your schedule where you can study. So the maroon areas are the areas that we've identified based on the schedule of times that we can designate as time blocking. We've got some Monday afternoon, some Tuesday mornings. So we have a combination of mornings and afternoons, and then we have some weekend time where we can devote to studying. Your goal is to complete the most you can through the week so that you can have the weekends off, or vice versa. You want to complete your work on the weekends so that you have more time during the week. This just depends on what your load is, what your responsibilities are, and what your schedule is. So I encourage you all to download this and to create this template so that you can better understand how time blocking can benefit you with planning and with avoiding procrastination. I also want you to consider identifying some time in your weekly schedule to plan. This is where you look at your schedule, you look at your Canvas, you look at your syllabus, and you say, here are all the items that I need to do for the week. And now that I've identified time blocks, this is where I'm going to be able to go in and get these things accomplished. So these are these small blocks of time, okay? Any questions with regards to time blocking and a blank schedule? Thumbs up. How are we doing so far? Let me check in with everybody. We're okay? Good. Thank you, Sophia. We're good. Okay, let's move on. So this is time blocking. Next, we're going to look at chunking. Chunking is where you break down large amounts of information into smaller, manageable pieces. Chunking enhances memory, it improves comprehension, and it reduces stress. If you've ever looked at your syllabus and then, you might have to go read a certain chapter and you go look at the chapter or a video and the video's 2 hours long, or the chapter's 100 pages, or the PowerPoint is 60 slides. And you think to yourself, this is a lot of work. Like, I'm never going to get through this. This is where chunking will help you. So what you do is you can break it into smaller, manageable pieces. That's how chunking applies to time management. Now, when we're looking at studying, chunking applies differently. What you do first when you're ready to study is you can group items that are related together, and then you can create patterns. So by doing this, you're able to separate that information in a way that makes sense to you. And I want to let you know that everybody studies differently. So if this works for you, if this is something you're doing already, or if this is one of the study techniques that you can adapt to what works best for you, I encourage you to do that. The goal here is to give you the ability to think that you have the ability to control what you study and when you study. That's key here. So if chunking works for you, you would group things. You would chunk things by, let's say, for instance, you're in a geography course. In your geography course, you would chunk information by continents. So maybe you've got to study several continents. You would maybe first group it into the continent and then first focus on the information that's related with one continent. So maybe you've got to focus on the capitals. We'll learn all the top capitals in one country before you move on to another one. Let's say, for instance, you're in an anatomy and physiology course. You have to focus on different parts of the skeletals of the systems. So maybe the first thing you focus on is the skeletal system. So then you focus on, let me learn the bones. Let me learn the functions of these bones. Once I've mastered that, then I move into muscular. And then you start learning the muscles, the layers, and the functions. So if you separate this into groups and into patterns, it's easier for you to take in this information versus thinking that you have to sit through 100 pages of text or 60 slides to get through this information. Learn it in chunks. Okay. The next thing we have is paraphrasing. Paraphrasing is when you reword information in your own words. With paraphrasing, you want to make sure that you are keeping the original meaning. You're not changing the definition. So paraphrasing involves your ability to recall information, it reinforces learning, and it deepens your understanding of the material. Let's look at an example. Let's say, for instance, we're looking at this statement. Long-term memory involves the storage of information over extended periods, allowing us to recall past experience, knowledge, and skills. If this is something you took directly from a textbook, from a slide, from a lecture, a quote, it's going to be difficult for you to retain this information the way it is. So what your goal is to do is to paraphrase it, because paraphrasing will help you with recalling the information later. Put it into your own words without changing the definition. So it would look something like this. Long-term memory is where we keep information for a long time, like past events, facts, and skills, so we can remember them later. It's as simple as that. If you have a phrase or maybe something that you can tie back to a memory, if you have something that you can tie back to a native language, add it here. These are your notes. This is how you're going to retain this information. So I encourage you to do that so that you're able to recall this information later. Okay, this is paraphrasing. Next, we have the Pomodoro technique. This is going to be our last technique before we get into just some logistics of this presentation. So Pomodoro technique. This is where once you've identified that time block and once you've identified that you are going to study the skeletal system for 2 hours on that Monday evening, what you want to do is you want to identify that task. You want to make sure that you've eliminated any distractions and you're going to set your timer for 25 minutes. I encourage students to set a visual timer. If you tend to get distracted with your phone, don't use your phone. If not, you're more than welcome to use your phone. But what you're going to do is focus on this task for 25 minutes. During these 25 minutes, you are just going to keep going. I want you to know that it's going to be hard to get through those first 25 minutes because you're tired, you're not interested in the topic, whatever the subject may be. I want you to keep going and do me a favor. Do not stop when you're tired. Stop when you're done. And that's going to be after these cycles of the Pomodoro technique. After those 25 minutes, your alarm goes off, your timer goes off. I want you to celebrate because you've made it through those first 25 minutes. The 5-minute break should be simple things. Restroom, stretch, breathing exercises, refilling your water, things like that. If your 5-minute breaks turn into 7 to 15 to 20, then we need to use a timer for those 5 minutes as well. Then you're going to work through another 25 minutes and then take a short break. You can work your way up to 4 25-minute sessions, or you can start with 2, you can start with 3. It's really up to you. When that timer goes off for those first 25 minutes, complete your thought, complete your reading, complete that paragraph, complete that. It's not a hard stop. Nobody's slamming the brakes and saying, stop. Complete that thought process, then take your 5-minute break and then start over. You're going to see that the more time that you stretch your brain is going to be able to last those 25 minutes and longer. And you're going to start to realize that 25 minutes is too short. So now your Pomodoros are 35 minutes because you've stretched your endurance to sit there. I would not recommend sitting any longer than 45 minutes without taking a short stretch break or whatever that needs to be, because you're going to burn yourself out if you sit for 45 minutes, for longer than 45 minutes, maybe an hour, but don't sit for 2-3 hours without taking a break because you're going to get distracted. You're not going to be as productive as if you were to take these small breaks. Okay. This link right here, I'm going to drop a link in our chat button. This is an opportunity for you to kind of let us know how this presentation went for you today. I would really, really appreciate your feedback. If you can open up that link and fill out the form for a survey. What we're going to do next is we're going to talk about the Pioneer Center for Student Excellence. This is the department that I work under. We're going to talk about academic coaching and then where to find these workshops. It's going to take me about 2 to 3 days to send this information out. So hopefully by early next week, everybody will get an email with the link to the video and a link to these attachments. And you'll be able to access those as well. So what we're going to do is when you go to the academic coaching website, I'm also going to drop that in the chat. That is our academic coaching link to get to our page. You can set an appointment up with an academic coach. This is what we do on an individual basis. We would meet with students one-on-one to help with things like study skills, learning styles, maybe developing that SMART goal a little more to help you reach your overall goal, balancing home responsibilities. You would click on Get Coaching and you can follow the steps to set an appointment up. You can also come over to our academic excellence workshops here, and you will see the listing for our future workshops that we have. We have one September 27th. So this is Embrace Your Learning, Embrace Your Brilliance, Thriving as a Diverse Learner, and then Mastering Focus on October 18th, followed by our Preparing for Finals on November the 8th. If you would like to look at this workshop early next week, you can click directly here to explore our workshops, and it'll take you directly to our YouTube page. If you sign up for the subscribe, then you'll automatically get the notification when the video does come up, or you can just come back and check. So it's really up to you. But I wanted to show you how to navigate these pages in the event that you want to go back and find this information later. We do have information that from our previous workshops that you can more than welcome to scroll through and watch. On all the presentations, you are going to notice that there is a feature, and it'll also be included in this one where you can go into the timestamps and go directly to look at what some of these areas are. So feel free to do that as well. My name is Christine Torres. Like I said, I am the Director for Success Initiatives. I really enjoyed having everyone here today. And what I'd like to do now is take some time to open up the floor to any questions that you may have. You can ask your question in the chat. You can also send them to me directly as a private chat, or you can take your mic off. Do you have any articles on Pomodoro technique? I don't, but I'm a visual learner. So what I would recommend if you're visual or if you are, let me see, let's go through here. So if you go straight to YouTube and you just look up Pomodoro technique and go to shorts. So short videos. Okay, so if you just go to shorts, then there's just different ways that there's different techniques that can show you how to do this in a different format. You can go straight to Google and you can Pomodoro technique, and you can go straight to images, and then you can find different pictures on how to do Pomodoro. What I don't want you to do is I don't want you to stay fixated on the fact that it's got to be like this and be so rigid. Be flexible. It's okay to be flexible. So you can say, I want to be here for 25 minutes. I want to be here 30 minutes and take a 5-minute break, 30 minutes, and then I'm done. That's okay. The goal is just to get you to focus within that time. Okay. Any other questions? You're welcome.
Hi there. Oh, sorry. Was somebody else going to say something?
You're up. What's up?
Yeah, I just want to share a really great resource called FocusMate that's been really helpful to me. It's kind of goes in line with the Pomodoro technique. So it's a website where you pair with somebody who's working on something, and so it really quickly in the beginning of the session, you say something like, hi, I'm going to be working on writing 3 paragraphs for this paper or whatever. And then the other person might be cooking or cleaning or, whatever they're doing. And then you work together for 25 minutes. So it's kind of like a way to build on top of that Pomodoro technique that's been really helpful for me. It's free for 3 sessions a month, and then it's like $10 a month for unlimited sessions. So, yep.
Thank you for sharing. That is, we always love to learn new things. So thank you for sharing that. I just pulled it up. Yeah, there's different ways. So this is, I would say, a form of accountability. So if you don't have a study partner, like to say, okay, we're going to sit here for 25 minutes and study, and then we take a break, then this is another way to get that. So there's plenty of resources like that. So definitely look those up as well. Thank you for sharing. That's a great one. Feel free, if anybody else has any other techniques or websites or Chrome extensions that you use, feel free to share those. Other students, we don't know unless we share, so it would help other students. I think there was a question. Let me go back up. What type of study techniques do the staff recommend for students with so there was a question, what kind of study techniques are offered for students who might be receiving accommodations? So anybody who has a disability can register for accommodations through our disability services office. And through those accommodations, they vary. So depending on what your accommodation is, it might be access to a software that they use to help you with that. But there's also Chrome extensions. If you want to email me privately, I do have a couple of Chrome extensions that help with dyslexia, that help with ADHD. They're actually in our time management video that's on our YouTube page, the first one from last semester. I talk about a couple of those Chrome extensions, but you have to get out there and do the work to look for to see what's going to help you in your situation. And then, of course, you want to look for free things and things that are adaptable to your learning styles as well. So I would recommend getting in there and just trying different things. Next question is, I think we've got that answered. Thank you. Dr. Templin has answered a question regarding study groups, so you can look in the chat for that. All right, somebody included a link for the Pomodoro Focus, so it's another website, so feel free to look into that. What is the best and effective way to study? It's really going to depend on your learning style. If you go to our academic coaching website page, there is a link for you to be able to take a learning style assessment. And by this point, you are probably already know that you do best with reading versus listening to someone or watching a video. So your learning styles can also be important to incorporate when it comes to what's going to work best for me. You want to make sure that you are active and engaged in that learning process. Nobody shows us how to study, how to be a college student. Those are things you pick up along the way. Key is to understand what works for you. And if it's not working, reassess. So if you are sitting and you are reading your lectures and you're highlighting everything and you're writing all of your notes, maybe try chunking, maybe try paraphrasing. And if those don't work, then we need to figure out, well, maybe I'm auditory and maybe I need to listen to the material before I actually go in and do the reading. So it's something that you adapt over time, and it's something that changes from subject to subject and, content to content and semester to semester. So don't feel like you're stuck with just reading and highlighting. You have to develop other ways to absorb the material and to take in the material. Okay. Awesome. So somebody else, there's also some other study techniques. Study with me. Great. Thank you for sharing. Do we have any other questions? Okay, well, if we don't have any other questions, we are going to stop the recording, stop the share, and end the recording. All right, the recording has ended. I really do want to take this time to let you know that I really do appreciate having you all here today. The information is going to be sent out and available on our YouTube channel. If you have any questions, if you feel more comfortable asking these questions with the recording off, we do have a few minutes left in today's session. If not, thanks again for coming, and I hope to see you on our next session. You're welcome. You're welcome. Thank you for coming. We incorporate our travel time to campus into our skeleton schedule when traffic gets heavy during rush hour, and it feels like the day runs out fast. A couple of things some students have shared with me, and I've physically seen students do, is when they have a long commute, if they come to campus early, they study before classes start, or maybe they know that if classes are over at 4, but if they hit the road at 4 o'clock, there's going to be a commute there. Sometimes students will just stay on campus a little bit longer. So then you built in that study schedule into your skeleton. You could just say, well, class is over at 4, but I'm going to stay on campus. I'm going to study for 2 hours. By the time I leave campus, traffic has died down. You can also take the opportunity when class is over at 4 just to hit the road and maybe find an alternative place, a good place that's for you to study, maybe a coffee shop, maybe a restaurant, maybe a local library, things that are closer to your community so that at least you've kind of gotten through that part. It is really difficult. It's one of those things that happens, but our campuses, if you're close to a campus, our campus is open on Saturdays as well. So maybe you just come up to campus when traffic might be less, less busy, the roads are less congested, and or looking for a place close to work that you can go study. It just depends on what that is. But commute time is one of those things that we really can't shave off. Sometimes we just have to kind of endure it. And I hope it gets better. I hope it gets better for you, or at least that it's more manageable. Um, any other questions? You're welcome. Thank y'all for joining us. I'm going to start closing out the session if there are no other questions. Thank y'all for joining us today. Lena, Eunice, Sydney, Tahira, do y'all have any other questions? Closing out. Thank you everybody for joining us.